Brittany, this is Coach Early Wine. Here we are at the beginning. Let me get you back to your stance. We talked a little bit about making sure that when you're in your batting stance and you're planning to slap, that your bat angle is the same as when you're planning on hitting. You can start with your bat in this position right here where it's kind of laid back, which is good for slapping. But we need to make sure that when you get to toe touch, which is right here, that we have some tilt back behind your head. Look at Chase Utley real quick on the right over here. Here he is in his stance, and then we take him to toe touch. Remember, we want slight bat tilt back towards our head, ideally. And I think for a smaller hitter like yourself, if you are going to hit away, you're going to want that extra tilt. Just that extra little wrist snap is going to give you a little bit more pop. So I think that's important that your bat get where this red line is right here at toe touch. And so the question for you is, in your stance, do you start it back like this, or do you go ahead and get it ready as if you were going to hit and start tilting it back in your stance a little bit? If you do that, if your bat starts where this red line is in your stance and you plan to slap, then when you get to your toe touch position, that bat is going to have to fall back into this position. It doesn't have to fall back into that position, but if it doesn't, it's going to make your slap a little longer and a little more powerful. But we don't need power typically when we're trying to slap, on the infield and beat the ball into the ground and place it on the infield. So you have to decide, like we talked about in camp, whether or not you want to start with your bat back for slapping or tilted towards your head for hitting in your stance so that you don't give it away. Okay, either way though, if you get to toe touch, like right here, we need that bat tilted back towards your head if you're hitting, and if you're not hitting, then we want that bat laid back at this angle right here a little bit so that we're just more efficient, shorter, not in need of all that power. So let's try to rectify that situation. So all that is going to be a result of you experimenting. Do I start in this particular stance even when I'm hitting? And do I start with this stance even when I'm slapping? Those both need to be the same, but the bat angle at toe touch will be different for both of those, obviously. We just don't want to give it away when you're in your batting stance. We want that to happen when you're at toe touch, either in hitting or slapping. So experiment with both of those, starting with it back here. Can I start with it back here and still get to a good toe touch position with the bat wrapped around my head just a touch? Or do I need to start with my bat tilted back to my head and then lay it back a little bit as I get to toe touch and slapping? So that's thing number one. From there, I want to take you to, you do a good job in your negative move here. This is all good. Positive movement is really good. You can see you gliding forward. Nice here. Really good. And here you are at toe touch. My only concern at toe touch is it looks like your front hip has started to fly open just a little bit. And remember, at toe touch, that front hip, you still want that thing to be perpendicular to home plate so that you don't leak out any power. So keep your front hip in just a touch and your front knee in just a touch at toe touch to allow you for your hips to be fully cocked and ready to fully exert their energy and not have a power leak have already happened. Okay, so that's that at toe touch, but really a great toe touch position other than the slight bat tilt back towards the head that we talked about in your stance. Alright, now from here I want to take you to contact, and we'll say contact is right here. And let's do the same thing with Chase Utley. And what I want you to notice here, the big difference to me is that if we draw a line from your head and we draw that line straight down, you're in a pretty good straight up and down position here. Chase Utley is in a similar position. His head is right down his back knee. So that's all good. My concern with this position is the bend in the back knee. So if we measure the angle of the bend in your back knee, that's 139 degrees. Let's draw that same comparison here on Chase Utley, right down the stripe of his pant leg and then back to his foot, and that's 106 degrees. So what that's telling us is that he has a lot more bend in his back knee than you do right here at contact, and I think that's what we need to do, is just sit you down more into your back leg at contact. You're walking up into a little bit too straight of a back leg and you're leaking some of your power out. Okay, from there you do okay with your extension, but that left arm never really snaps out until it gets pointed over to third base, over in here somewhere, and it doesn't really totally get straight here. You can still see a little bend in that arm. We need for that left arm, like Chase Utley here, to get fully straight, pointed right back out at the pitcher. So here is his extension, and your extension happens right there. When our extension happens towards towards first base, then that basically means that you're going to be cutting across the ball and hitting balls to the right side of the field, but you're not going to be able to drive the ball to the left side of the field because you're pulling your bat across the strike zone and not extending out through the middle. Okay, and then we bring you on around in your finish. In your finish here, first and foremost, make sure that your head stays right down here on the ball. You see Chase Utley here right now. You can still see his head is looking right down here where he hit. Most importantly, let's take you back to contact for just a second and see where your head's at. Right here, it's hard to tell where your eyes are looking, but when I look at just your head in general, your head to me is facing out this way, and you got to track the softball all the way into the barrel. Let me bring up a really good example. Well, there's a lot of them, but let me get another hitter up here who does a really good job of this. I think Derek Jeter is a guy who stayed down on the ball really well. And there Derek is at contact, and you can see his eyes and his face are pointed right down here on the ball. Here's another hitter, Carlos Beltran. Take him to contact, and again, there's his nose and there's his eyes, and they're right down where they're supposed to be. One more example. Excuse me. Jim Edmonds. Let's watch him hit here. Boom. And for that split second, look at his head right down on the barrel of his bat. Whoops. There we go. Head down. It should be right on this shoulder right here too. Try to put your chin on your back shoulder and leave it there. Don't let it come off of that in the end of your swing. We talked about your extension. You do a good job of finishing with your upper body, letting it rotate all the way around. My only concern with your finish is that if we drew that line that we were talking about down the middle of your helmet and we took that on down to the bottom of the ground, it'd be out by your back of your front foot. Let's do that same thing with Jim Edmonds. Watch how when he finishes his swing, that his head and his upper body are right down the back knee, and so he's not continuing to glide forward after contact. You're having a tendency after contact to keep moving forward, and once your foot hits the ground, once your stride foot hits the ground, there should be no more forward movement. So here's Jim Edmonds with his foot down, and I'm going to draw that line in his helmet again, right down the center. And now let's watch as he rotates on that line. See how he stays on that? Now again, he obviously has negative movement. Here is his head in his stance. He shifts back in his negative movement. He glides forward in his positive movement, but when his foot gets into the ground right there, when this lead foot gets into the ground, at that point he becomes purely rotational, and he stays on that line. Let's take you back to contact here for a minute. And we already decided that at contact your head was in a pretty good position. We just wanted you lower down into your legs. But from that point, I want you to watch how you continue to glide forward in your finish. Okay? And that line should be boom, straight down through the back knee. Okay, so let's go over that again real quick. Stance. Let's get our bat angle figured out. Do we want to keep it here and and wrap it at toe touch, or do we want to wrap it in stance and lay it back at toe touch when you're slapping? From there, we saw you shift back into your negative move, which we really like that position a lot. That's great right there. Awesome positive movement. There you are at toe touch. We talked about your front hip flying open just a little bit there, and the need for a little bit more bat tilt so you can get your wrist involved. Other than that, toe touch looks really good. You begin to rotate. Contact right here is good. We needed more bend in the back leg, and then we wanted extension to the middle of the field, not to the third baseline, and we needed your head and your upper body to stay over your back leg, and then your chin to stay on your back shoulder. So I know that was a lot in a short amount of time, but you obviously have the benefit of rewinding this thing and slowing it down and pausing it and making sure you got each one of those pieces. So, excuse me. Let's watch you hit here for a second. I'm going to bring up Chipper Jones over here on the right. Let him be swinging and see if there's anything else that I can notice as we just watch the swing in full. Yeah, and other than the bat angle, again, I really think the standout feature is that when you see Chipper Jones get here and his foot gets into the ground, right here on this line, he should stay here as he rotates. See that? He's going to stay all the way through his finish. Here he is in his stance. He shifts back behind that line in his negative move. He glides forward in his positive move. His front foot gets into the ground here, and at this point he becomes purely rotational, no more forward movement. And he rotates on that line and stays on that line. Okay? That should keep you busy for a while. Stay down in your legs. Don't leak forward after your front foot hits the ground. Extend to the middle of the field and figure your bat angle out. I think that's a good place to start. A lot of good things there that will keep you busy for a while. And nothing really more important than keeping your head down, so make sure you do that as well. Alright, so that's it for the swing. Let's now see if I can find your slap here. Here we go. As I'm watching this, I'm watching your bat angle, and you've got it laid back a little bit, just like we talked about being ideal for slappers. And then at the beginning of the week, we flattened your bat out more from the pitcher's view, so the bat would be more parallel to the ground from the pitcher's view. And you can see here that you don't start in a great position with it, but right before you go to contact, see if I can find it, you'll see right here your bat is a little straight, but right before you go to contact, watch this thing flatten out. Look at that right there. It flattens out and allows you to keep your barrel almost as high as your hands. Now this is what I'm talking about with your head position. Look at this head position. That is perfect. Let's compare these two side by side. Look at the difference. Look at the difference in head position when you slap versus when you hit away. If we could get that head position from the left and move that to the right when you hit away, it's going to change your life. It's going to be a big difference maker. The other thing we talked about was speeding up your trot towards the pitcher. Your slow and controlled is very effective. When you get 2 strikes, I'd recommend staying with that slow and controlled jog through the plate or walk through the plate so that you can make sure you make contact and cut your strikeouts down. But early in the count, man, take off running. Get those wheels going fast. That way when you hit that ball, you're almost at top speed by the time you make contact, and you can get down the line a little bit quicker. Now right here, it's a soft slap. But as I was talking to your dad a little bit, make sure on your soft slap or your tap slap that instead of your bat pushing on through the ball like it does right here, try to, after contact, have your bat come right back up from here to right by your ear. So you're going to tap it and you're going to draw it up right by your ear, not down low, because if you let it come back low, you're going to pop balls up. But if you bring that bat back up by your ear, it will soften that slap, if that's what you're trying to do, is soften it and deaden it, which is a lot of times, I'm guessing, what you're trying to do anyway, because you're soft slapping here or tap slapping. Let me look for just a second and see if we have any. Oh, we've deleted a lot of our old slapping stuff. My apologies. Let me see if I can find it here in this other file. No, all of our slapping files are deleted, but I think you know what I'm talking about. So, wait, here we go. I got some good ones to come up here. Not sure what kind of a. Maybe I don't. Maybe I spoke too soon. I'm not sure what kind of a slap this is, but let me play it anyway. Oh, this is a regular slap here. You watch this slapper for me. She slaps it. Barrel's the same height as the hand, which is a lot, ensures that we get on top of it. And then this is a regular slap. You'll see her release with one hand down low, pointed to the ground, making sure that ball's hit on the ground. That's perfect slapping technique for a regular slap. I don't think we have any of our tap slaps still saved, but I'm going to look through all these real quick if you don't mind. Bear with me. Well, I think that's unfortunate. That's all we got. Here's pull up. Well, I was going to pull up Sammy Fagan, but it's not letting me pull her up either. Here's another slap from that same slapper. Let's see if she does a tap slap here. Nope. Try this one. Alright, so none of those were tap slaps. Sorry about that, but had to look. Anyway, what I was trying to demonstrate was that when you get to contact here, just pull the bat back with your wrist right up to your ear so that you deaden it. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. If you got any issues with it, give me a call and I can try to walk you through it. And then we were talking about speeding up through the box. Obviously that's a good idea. Your head's down on this stuff, just picture perfect. So I wouldn't change a thing with your head positioning here in the slap. And you're doing right now is the one-handed release and pointing that towards first base down to the ground. That's perfect for regular slapping. So if that's what you were trying to do here, then that's all good. Alright, I think we've covered it all. Yeah, like I said, call me or email me or text me or whatever if some of this stuff has been unclear. But I think if you go back through this, there's a lot of material. And just knock those things out one by one. And oops, knock them out one by one. Don't try to take it all at once. Just take it piece by piece. A lot of improvement though from you. A lot of that is just maturity. You've gotten bigger and stronger. And I was talking with your dad about the recruiting process, and I think a part of it for you is going to hinge around how well you hit the ball, because your slapping is great, but the question is, will you be fast enough 4 years from now, 5 years from now, to be able to slap in the SEC or for one of the top schools in the country? And to do so, you know, you need to be around that 2.6, 2.7, 2.8 at the very least. And you never know how your body's going to change over the next 4 or 5 years. And so if you're not able to slap with a 2.6 or 2.7, the question every scout's going to want to know is, can you hit well enough to justify making a scholarship offer to somebody who is also a slapper? I would want to know, can she hit in case she gets into a position with her body and her maturity where her speed's not there anymore. So keep working on your swing. Remember, every time you swing the bat and hit, that's helping your slapping, because that's just eye-hand coordination, body awareness, and really just finding a way to get the barrel to the ball. And if you can do that hitting, then you can do it slapping. You just add a run to it, and it becomes slapping. So I think we'll kind of close with that. That's about as much as I can think of right now. Lots of improvement, though, from the past. Still improvement left to be done, but that's the way this game is, and that's never going to end. I mean, even if you become a first-team All-American at college, you're still going to be finding little ways that you can make your game better. So this is just a part of that journey. Embrace it. Work as hard as you can at it. Make sure you're having fun while you're doing it, and everything will work out for the best. All right, Brittany, thanks a lot. And like I said, get a hold of me if you have any questions.